up on where we left off when I was covering the information superhighway is chronositis. All right, a lot of you may remember the Greek god Kronos and what that was all about, or what he represented, which was time. All right, and we know that he was obsessed with time and would go to extreme measures to control time. And in so doing, it was about, of course, controlling us. And you can see this playing itself out in all people activity today, all right, as far as the beast being in control of time, having to control time. And as such, like I said, as far as how he has been in control of time, all right, or has locked us into his time, which again is, if you will, a consciouslessness. We can start with, for example, the 7 wonders of the world, okay, and how that piggybacks off of, again, Kronos. Now, when we look at the 7 wonders of the world, we talk about, well, actually, the 7 wonders were also known as the 7 heavens, or 7 havens, because heaven is also haven. If we're dealing with transitional grammar, all right, we're just actually switching the word, okay, for lack of a better term, and putting it in its proper place, okay, as in the case of what they did when they kept switching up on everything, as they do today, as we call them the Canaanites, which is their original name from the land Canaan, because we know, again, that if you look at the CA and you turn it backwards, you got AC, right, which is alternating current, which we know this is what they are, right? They're always switching up, right? They act like, you know, they smile in your face, stab you in the back kind of thing. But anyway, like I said, the 7 wonders of the world, which were the 7 heavens or 7 havens, all right, were in connection or corresponding to the 7 different planes, all right? And the 7 different planes were plans basically to construct or build structures, rather, which became items of power. And these particular items of power are the items that actually give this country its power, okay? As we talked about the various nuclei, if you will, the nucleus of 42nd Street, nucleus of America being the nucleus of, you know, the planet and so forth, or setting the tone or pace for every other country. And anyway, again, these particular items of power, okay, which were 5 items that were taken from the 7 and were placed in the 5 boroughs, okay, strategically placed to give, again, this country its power. So we're talking about, let's get into a little numerology. So you got 5 times 5, right, which we know is 25, right? Then you got 25, you got 2 plus 5 is 7, right, which equals, again, your 7 wonders, or, again, equivalent to the 7 different planes, all right? And if you take it a step further, it links into the Kemetic or Egyptian invasions that took place. Okay, we're still dealing with, again, the obsession of time, because we knew, or rather we know that Kemet represents time, and that we, being the ancient Kemites, or Kemetic people, all right, that we are time itself, all right? And that doing those particular invasions, all right, which they were conquered by the Greeks, the Romans, the Turkish, all right, who today call themselves, you know, Arabs, or desert Arabs, or the so-called Mohammedan desert Arabs, who speak what they call Arabic, which is not the real or original Arabic. It is just a dialect of, all right, which is really called, if you will, Persian. It is not the original Arabic, but nonetheless, they walk around calling themselves Arabs and Muslims, rather, and Egyptians, which we know that they're not Egyptians. Now, you know something is drastically wrong when you know that the Arabic, all right, was not the original language of the ancient Kemites, and that today it is the one language that everybody speaks there, okay? So now we see that the Egyptians, as we said, the so-called Egyptians today, which are not the real Egyptians, they were pushed down, or rather we were pushed down to the Nile, all right? And then what happened was when we were pushed down to the Nile or relegated to that particular area, what happened was he relocated the temples, all right? Because, I mean, this is how the beast works. He relocated the temples because he knew about an advanced science we had, right? And because he knew about that advanced science, that's why he went down to Nubia and said, it's relocated, okay, or we've relocated it. And all of the Nubian statues, the artifacts, etc., all right, were relocated for the simple reason it was about bringing the Aswan down, or the Aswanians, all right, or, if you will, North Africans, all right, which actually we were later taken, of course, into what we know to be one of the most prolific slave trades that took place in the 1600s, okay, just fast forwarding, jumping ahead just a little, but going back. But anyway, the reason why he relocated all of these particular statues, artifacts, monuments, and so forth, all right, was because, again, it was about controlling time, all right? Now, one of the other reasons was because it would interfere with the period of time when the elders, okay, who we call extraterrestrials, for lack of a better term, or as it's referred to in the scripture, the Elohim, all right, or the Anunnaki, right, were to enter in on a certain angle or a particular angle. And this was their way of really switching and changing up time. Again, so you can see how the beast is, continually messing, or, if you will, more succinctly, fucking with the time, all right? So now we take it a step further, and you look at, like I said, the elders were to come in or to recycle, if you will, at a particular angle. So they found out that the Stonehenge, right, the Temple of the Blue Aztecs, the Mayan ancient pyramids, the Sphinx, and how they all tied in, again, to these who, again, we call extraterrestrials, how it tied into that, how it tied into the birth of the planet Earth, planet Mars, the various projects that were going on there, the Homo erectus, Homo sapien project, which is where your Zakar or Adam came from, all right? And they knew about this, all right? So they had to, again, rearrange, switch, play with the time, as they've been doing, as they are continually doing, all right? I mean, this whole thing about, what is this shit, 24 hours in a day. We know, I mean, come on, 24 hours in a day. Your day begins when you wake up in the morning, all right, what they call the morning, or when the sun rises, what they call sunrise, and when it supposedly sets, even though the sun never really goes anywhere, all right? But nonetheless, these are just what we call shadow hour, all right? But that's when your day begins and ends, all right? Sunrise and what they call sunset, which is a period of 12 hours, not 24 hours, so they double the time, so again, that you would know, all right, and that you'd be locked into their time, all right? So we can take it a step further, and we look at, for example, like I said, doubling the time, and even if you look at the music that we deal with today, okay, he messed with the music, okay, the beat, the time signatures. For example, we basically, or most popular music, or the current music that we listen to today, is dealing with the 4/4 time, mostly 4/4 time, all right? The 2/4 time and the 3/4 and the 6/8 and all that basically is in other genres of music, but still, nonetheless, he has played with the time in our music, which, like I said, these signatures really are not our time signatures, all right? Perfect example is that you think that you are, like, laying a track, or you're listening to music, or you're patting your feet or your hands to a 2/4 time, right? But in reality, he's got you on the 1 and the 3. And in reality, we're not even supposed to be on the 2 and the 4, all right? Okay, because our time signature is a time signature that they haven't even touched on yet, all right? Which gets into a whole nother science and deals with the science of 19, all right? And I'm sure you've heard different people talk about the science of 19, but it gets into a whole nother science, all right? which, by the way, when you get into signature, I mean, if grammatically or the transitional grammar would be guessing your nature, all right? They've got you guessing your nature. I mean, now that sounds really bugged, right? I mean, it really sounds bugged. Now, if we look at, again, dealing with the time signatures, all right, even with the speech pattern, okay, the speech pattern plays a part in the time signature. Even when you formulate or sound out certain words in this language, all right, it's dealing with a particular rhythm or a certain rhythm, all right, and within that rhythm, even though for the most part we seem to carry our own rhythm, despite the fact that we are speaking in the English language, or what they call language, which is simply a tongue, because we know that it's just a bastard form of what they call the Old English, but still in all, we are locked into his time, all right? When you, like I said, when you sound out certain words. So again, you're dealing with, as I said before when we talked about information, all right, you're dealing with a certain tone or certain tones or frequencies, so in this case, a foreign tone, all right? And the signature, which seals the portal, or it seals one of the many portals to what they call Malakot. Malakot is the realm of the angelic beings, all right? And we are cutting ourselves off, all right, by being locked into this particular time signature, or this rhythm, or this so-called density that we are locked into. All right? So, like I said, well, I just want to get into the science of 19 a little. Like I said, our time signature really deals with the science of 19. All right? So, we know that the science of 19 deals with, or actually is a prime number. And that prime number, no matter how you multiply it, no matter how you divide it, the sequence is consecutive, all right, which is disclosed in what they call ether 9, which is the composition of gases that makes us who we are, which is disclosed in melanin, all right, which is also element 9, and which is disclosed in, believe it or not, what they call the 10 Commandments, which is simply the 10 most common things that man needs and can't or cannot do without. All right? And, like I said, the consecutive odd and even numbers, all right, of 19, when you multiply it, right, from 19 times 1 on down to 19 times 19, which the total would be 361. But either way, you can see that the consecutive odd and even numbers ascend and descend in a particular, or they ascend and descend one after the other in a consecutive sequential order, all right? This lets you know or shows you the, if you will, the magic, for lack of a better term, behind the science of 19, all right? And getting just a step further into the time signature, we can see that the time signature, for example, of 1216 is equivalent to the 361. Now, we just said that 19 times 19 is 361. 1216, all right, is equivalent to 361. Not